Hey, so I'm going to do a short mini lecture on the sun as a planet in astrology and having maybe a different appreciation for what the sun represents for us. So we all know the sun as a sun sign. I am an Aquarius. I'm in Aries. She's a Capricorn. He's a Scorpio. Okay, and with that, we also know what people tell us that this means. Well, you're an Aries, so obviously, blah, blah, blah. You're a Cancer. Clearly, you, blah, blah, blah. Oh, you're a Libra and I'm a Taurus. We're so compatible, not compatible, yada, yada, yada. Right? We're all familiar with that. But as we have more ability to communicate with each other, we also know now that the sun sign, your sun sign, your zodiac sign, is not the whole or the definition of who you are. It's much more complicated than that. So why do we still use it? Why do we still put credence and weight into the sun? And what does the sun really mean in a chart? Okay. So the first thing I want you to understand is the function of the sun in the horoscope as it holistically relates to its function in your psyche. All right. So we know in the universe, or in our solar system, the sun is the center of the solar system, our solar system. It is the center around which everything in our solar system that we know that makes up our little corner of the universe, it is the center of all of that. Without the sun, if the sun dies, we die. Okay, because the life-giving light and warmth that makes photosynthesis possible, that makes plants grow, that nourishes animals and allows us to have flesh to eat along with plants, and the ability to function in not sub-zero temperatures, and to have plants that give us shelter and things of that nature would cease to exist. We need the sun and all the wonderful things that the sun brings to us in terms of life. In your psyche, okay, in your personal self, the sun represents the ego or the identity. Now, the word ego tends to get a bad rap, right? People are like, oh, you're so egotistical. And our current Agent Orange in office here in the United States, who people want to believe is Leo rising. I so rapidly disagree with this. But we'll go with it. So assuming that he is Leo rising, of course, we think of the sun and ego and all of its negative attributes. And that's simply not true. The ego, in terms of your psyche, your psychological development, has to do with your identity. And a healthy ego is a beautiful thing. It is a beautiful thing. A healthy ego, like a healthy sun, allows you to radiate and shine and provide warmth and inspiration and the ability to stimulate people into growth around you. That's what a healthy ego does. An unhealthy ego is a very dangerous thing. An unhealthy ego, or a starving ego, is one that is constantly needing to be fed. It is constantly looking for ways to validate itself. It's constantly looking for some way to shore up a shaky sense of who it is and what it's supposed to do. An unhealthy ego is problematic. So we need our egos. Egos do wonderful, fantastic things. They are the center of our identity. So we must have an ego, preferably a healthy one. Either way, without it, you cease to exist. Just like the sun in our solar system, if it's not there functioning in a healthy way and doing what it needs to do, we will cease to exist. It will cease to exist, and we will cease to exist with it. The sun as ego or identity, you need an identity, and your ego is part of that, and understanding your identity and who you are in the world and who you are in your relationships to other things and people. Without that, you cease to exist. So with the sun as ego or identity, what can that tell us? Well, it can tell us a lot. Obviously, it can't tell us everything. Now, If the sun in a chart represents your ego or your identity structures, okay, it will also act just like the sun allows us to navigate the world around us because we can see where we're going and what we're doing. The sun in our charts is also a navigational force. It allows us to have clarity in vision and identity and understanding and making sense of the world around us. So the sun is a very important operational force in terms of being able to make forward progress in life. All right. Now, obviously, it's a little more complicated than that and more than we can get into in this little teeny tiny video. But understand that the sun is critically important in terms of your ability to move forward in a direction that not only makes sense for where you're at any given point in your life, but also it provides clues as to the types of experiences that you need that will help you become more of who you are. We need to feed our suns, because an unhealthy or starving ego or an unhealthy or starving sun is a very dangerous thing. Not to mention the fact that it's a very unattractive thing, right? Okay. So, all right. Now, some other things to consider when we're looking at the sun. So the sun as a standalone object, now we've just covered that. But what happens when we have a sun that is receiving challenging aspects, right? So maybe it's got a conjunction to Saturn. Ugh, that can't be good, right? Saturn's so unpleasant and mean and stingy and just it brings all sorts of hardship, which is true. But what if we have somebody who's got a Sun-Saturn conjunction versus somebody who's got a Sun-Jupiter trine, right? Which is a nice, easy, buoyant aspect. Does the Sun-Saturn conjunction, because Saturn is such a malefic or negative, challenging planet, does that mean that this person's sun, identity, ego, is it doomed to not rise up to its potential? Is it forever doomed to be weak and hungry and needy and abused and neglected and all those Saturnine words, right? Not necessarily. When we look at the sun and any aspects to the sun, the thing to remember is that all of the aspects and planets in your chart are going to give you planetary pictures. And we must put this in the context of the person's life. Not everybody is born with the same opportunities. Not everybody is born in the same circumstances. Not everybody is born with the same luxuries or privileges. And some people are born with more hardships than others, okay? This means that no matter what we see in a chart, it cannot exist in a vacuum. It does not exist outside of the person's life. We must take all of this information and put it in the context of the person's life as they're living it. All right. With that said, you have somebody with a Sun-Saturn conjunction. If somebody has a Sun-Saturn conjunction, and let's put it in Leo on top of everything else. If you have somebody with a Sun-Saturn conjunction in Leo, and they're growing up in Calcutta, India, and they were born into a desperately poor family, okay? So they don't have access to education. They don't have opportunities to work in a family business because the family doesn't have a business. Everything that would be considered normal for us in a first world country, they don't have, because they were born into poverty in, a country where being poor is really some big stuff, right? And when we look at their chart and we look at the Sun-Saturn conjunction, it makes sense. It would make complete sense that this person, it would make complete sense that this person would experience hardships in life, Sun-Saturn. Would have feelings of insecurity and not being worthy enough, Sun-Saturn. Have difficulty expressing themselves creatively, Sun-Saturn Leo. Because again, when you're poor, you don't have the luxury of time to do these things. All of these things that we would typically associate with a Sun-Saturn conjunction would make complete sense. But what if the person was born in the United States? What if the person was born in a middle class or maybe even an upper middle class, an affluent family? What if this person was born in the right gender and race for the power structure or power paradigm of the culture that they're living in? In this particular case, for this individual I'm thinking of, being a white male in a white male dominated society, because that is the holder of power at that time in that culture. Okay, what about that person with a Sun Saturn conjunction? Does that mean that their life is going to be horrible and that they're never going to have opportunities to excel or gain achievement and recognition? It's just, just violins, right, the entire time. Like, is this what we're looking at with this person too? Maybe it's entirely possible. What could also happen is if this person has the support and the opportunities, this person, when they find the right avenue to express themselves, may excel, because Saturn also represents hard work and discipline and understanding limitation and dogged determination and a genuine, deep, bone deep commitment to getting it right, to excelling, to being the best at something, whatever it happens to be. That could happen too. And do you know who has that kind of an aspect? Tom Brady for the Patriots, who is one of the oldest quarterbacks in NFL history. I think there's only, or football players. I think there's only one other football player is older than he is that's still active, still playing. Right? Tom Brady is a grandfather by football years, like dog years except football years. And this is what he's won multiple Super Bowls, right? The standard of excellence and endurance. It's got a Sun Saturn conjunction in Leo. So Tom Brady was born into the circumstances of his life. Remember, all of this has to be in the context of a person's life. So Tom Brady was born into a life with circumstances that allowed for certain things and avenues to be traveled for him to get where he is. This person born in Calcutta, India, would never see this kind of achievement because he's poor in Calcutta, India. And in this day and age, what is he going to do? Right? So unless it's like some kind of slumdog millionaire once in a lifetime lottery win, his Sun Saturn might express differently. So he may achieve a level of success and excellence, but it may not look the same as it does here. And this is the thing we have to remember when we talk about these planets and the aspects. It's not a one-size-fits-all recipe. We must always look at the chart in the context of a person's life and what the planetary evolutionary drive is really telling us. And they can sort that out with everything that's available to them in their lifetime at that point. So with that said, now let's go back to like a Sun-Jupiter trine, which is, a benefic or beneficial planet, and a trine is a very easy aspect. It's a very lucky aspect. Okay. So if we've got somebody who has a Sun-Jupiter trine born here, and same thing. So they're born into the right gender, the right race for the current power paradigm in the culture that they were born into, which in this case right now would be like a white male, right? If they have a Sun-Jupiter trine, you would think this is phenomenal, right? It should be great. Everything's easy. And they accomplish nothing in life. Why do you suppose that is? Well, it's maybe because everything is easy. Okay. Sun-Jupiter trine is a very lucky aspect, but it makes things easy because it's lucky. They don't have to work so hard to achieve anything. Things kind of fall in their lap. And when you don't have to work so hard to achieve something or to attain something, you can get lazy. It's just a human nature. This is what we do. So the person may not be driven to do more. Why would they? It's much easier just to hang out and do the minimal necessary and reap benefit from it. This is like the signature of capitalism, free market economy, which is not necessarily the best because people get lazy and tend to ride off of other people's work or, their luck, which is never a great way to get through life. So in that situation, this particular aspect in the context of this person's life, this may not necessarily be a helpful aspect. This may not, and because it's not helpful, it's not good. Things that aren't helping us are not good things. Okay. Well, usually. But let's take the same aspect and put it back in Calcutta, India, with someone who's born into poverty. So there, this may be a phenomenal aspect, because there, that kind of lucky assistance from the cosmos and the celestial divine, this is good, because this would allow somebody who's in an otherwise extremely challenged position, socially, economically, intellectually, whatever, to get the lucky breaks they need to jump over the chasms between where they're at and stuck at by virtue of circumstance to where they need to be to go to the next level in terms of progress or evolution in their life. So that Sun-Jupiter trine, that lovely Sun-Jupiter trine, which should be really, really good, may not be so great in a situation where things are already, fairly comfortable and easy, and maybe phenomenally, almost miracle worthy in places where things are definitely not so easy. So when you look at your planets, especially the sun, we want to look at it in terms of what the evolutionary demand is for the identity development in the context of the person's life. Never, ever, ever take an astrology chart out of the context of a person's life and what's available to them. Because if you do, as nice as it is, you're literally just pulling fantasies out of a magician's hat. It amounts to nothing. Now, this does not mean that a person is limited to their circumstances, okay? But you have to remember that reality is the starting point where we're working from. So all the potentials in a chart will be expressed and manifested in some way organically based on circumstances and opportunities that are in the context of a person's current life existence at any given time. Where you start in life is not where you end up. That chart will give you some idea about how easy or difficult these things are going to be to get where you need to be, to further your own development. But it will also give us clues as to how to better master ourselves so that we can get through these things and accomplish more in terms of discovering our own personal happiness. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, it's not about status, and it's not about money, and it's not about power. It's about happiness. Everybody wants to be happy. And the chart will show us ways that we can move towards our own personal, unique thumbprint for happiness. So now that we've covered that, now I just want to touch on the moon. So sun versus moon, right? So sun, moon, what does this really mean, right? So the sun is our identity and the moon's our emotions, sort of. So in your chart, there are three important points in your chart. These represent the absolute foundation, like a pyramid, right? This is the foundation of your identity, of who you are, okay? These are the three most personal points in a chart. They are critically important, and they form the holy trinity of identity, all right? They are the sun, the moon, and the ascendant. And from there, you get into the chart ruler, the ascendant ruler. Whole big, long conversation separate from that. But these three things, ascendant, sun, moon, these are the things that define the essence of your identity. Everything else is literally stylistic notes and details. So the sun will give us our identity, the ego, right? The conscious expression, the conscious drive that we need to move forward in our life, how we navigate through the world. The moon is the unconscious. It's the lunar side, okay? It's the unconscious, the subconscious, the emotions. It's all of ourselves below the surface. So if you can imagine your consciousness and your unconsciousness, it looks a lot like an iceberg. So the consciousness is the tip of the iceberg, just showing over the water, right? So it's just that little section of your awareness that's above the surface of the water. The rest of it down below, right? That is your unconscious or subconscious, okay? And that is the part that your moon rules. So the moon has a lot of rulerships, and it's not just your mother. It's not just your dreams, and it's not just your feelings. There's a whole bunch of stuff that the moon covers. But ultimately, in terms of the Holy Trinity in your astrology chart, the sun is the conscious part of your expression. The moon is everything else unconscious, okay? Now, the third part, right? Third part of your Holy Trinity in your astrology chart is your ascendant. Your ascendant is very, very specific for a lot of reasons, more than we can get into here. But the thing to understand about your ascendant, it is the point, okay? It is the point that pins you to the earth and reality, because that is the moment, the day, time, and moment you came into existence and took your first breath, all right? That is the moment you became a participant in reality on the earth plane. That's your ascendant, and that's what it means, which means that that anchor point that the ascendant represents is critically important in the chart. Ascendant, sun, moon. Anybody who discounts or minimizes the importance of the ascendant, well, just, yeah, just no. And again, it's a lot, so it's too much to get into here. But so that's what you need to know. So your sun is part of this trinity, this triad. Now, with your sun, because we've got to circle back to where we were originally talking. With your sun, other things that we're looking at, not just the sun sign, we're also looking at your sun by the degree that it's sitting in, the house that it's sitting in, and just like a whole lot of other things that specify the uniqueness of your particular solar expression. So you can, so two things to understand about your sun sign. So on the one hand, it's a gross oversimplification of who you are, because you are a combination of many, many things in your chart, as well as your chart being expressed through in the context of your life circumstances and through the lens of perception with the cultural norms you've grown up around, okay? There's a lot more going on than just your chart. So the sun as a sign, sun sign, can be a gross oversimplification when we limit it to just that. I am an Aries, therefore, ergo. At the same time, just knowing what someone's sun is by sign and degree, okay? Sorry. We can still tell a lot, because the sun, along with the moon and the ascendant, forms the three legs on the table that form your total identity. Everything else is just additional information, but it's those three things that really give us a clear idea of the fundamental of who you are. So, when you look at your sun, remember that your sun is intended to be a navigational device for you to get through your life, and it is specifically representative of ego drives. And ego is a good thing. Unhealthy egos are not, but healthy egos are a good thing. Ego drives and identity needs, okay? Who you are and what you need to be more of who you are. All right, so that's been our mini lecture about the sun today. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and we'll catch up with you soon. So for those of you interested in learning more about astrology, above and beyond what's already out there for free, you're certainly welcome to welcome to surf over to my Patreon page. I got a lot of good stuff going on over there, and there's more stuff available to subscribers who subscribe to the astrology lessons. There's also monthly psychic readings you get for free as part of the package, and oh my gosh, solar returns and chart service, depending on what tier you're at. We've got a lot of fun stuff going on over there in addition to the astrology course. There's also, you can sign up as just a patron and just have access to the patron-only posts that are general stuff. So we tend to put stuff up there that are exclusive to the subscribers. So I apologize, you guys who are watching YouTube and enjoying all the free content and wondering why I'm not sharing it with everybody. But honestly, it's just because there are only so many hours in the day, and I have to apportion my time more specifically. And honestly, I don't, this is not what I do to support myself. So with that said, I don't have all day to sit and run charts and do that sort of stuff. So my focus is very specifically on people who are very serious about engaging and wanting to learn. And the stuff I give you guys for free, I do because I enjoy it. All right. So that's it. And look for more stuff, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye. And before I forget, Like, subscribe, and share. Share the love. Like, subscribe. Give the girl a little love.